All right.
How bad is it?
Bad. We just lost contact with two of our deep space outposts. There's something massive on the long-range scanners.
Is this what Shepard warned us about?
I'd stake my life on it.
How long do we have?
Not long. I sent word. The fleet's immobilizing.
God help us all.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
Commander.
You're not supposed to call me that anymore, James.
Not supposed to salute you either. We gotta go. The Defense Committee wants to see you.
Sounds important. What's going on?
Couldn't say. Just told me they needed you. Now.
Anderson?
Admiral?
You look good, Shepard. Maybe a little soft around the edges. How are you holding up since being relieved from duty?
It's not so bad once you get used to the hot food and soft beds.
We'll get it sorted out.
What's going on? Why is everyone in such a hurry?
Admiral Hackett's mobilizing the fleets. I'm guessing word's made it to Alliance Command. Something big's headed our way.
The Reapers?
We don't know, not for certain.
What else could it be?
If I knew that.
You know we're not ready if it is then. Not by a long shot.
Tell that to the Defense Committee.
Unless we're planning to talk the Reapers to death, the committee is a waste of time.
They're just scared. None of them have seen what you've seen. You've faced down a Reaper. Hell, you spoke to one, then blew the damn thing up. You've seen how they harvest us, what they plan to do to us. You know more about this enemy than anyone.
That why they grounded me? Took away my ship?
You know that's not true. The shit you've done, any other soldier would have been tried, court-martialed, and discharged. It's your knowledge of the Reapers that kept that from happening.
That and your good word?
Yeah, I trust you, Shepard. And so does the committee.
I'm just a soldier, Anderson. I'm no politician.
I don't need you to be either. I just need you to do whatever the hell it takes to help us stop the Reapers.
They're expecting you to, Admiral.
Good luck in there, Shepard.
Williams.
Shepard.
Shepard.
Lieutenant Commander, how'd it go in there?
I can never tell with them. I'm just waiting for orders now.
Lieutenant Commander?
You hadn't heard.
No. I'm a bit out of the loop these days.
Sorry, sir. Didn't mean to keep you out of the loop.
It's not like you learned the Reapers were coming and didn't tell me.
True enough.
Admiral,
You know the commander?
I used to.
What's the situation?
We were hoping you would tell us.
The reports coming in are unlike anything we've seen. Whole colonies have gone dark. We've lost contact with everything beyond the Soul Relay.
Whatever this is.
You brought me here.
Oh,
what you already
darn it!
know.
I didn't do the
The Reapers are
the
here.
mod.
Then, how do we stop them?
Stop them. This isn't about strategy or tactics. This is about survival.
But there must be some way.
If we're gonna have any chance at surviving this, we have to stand together.
That's it? That's our plan?
Admiral, we've lost contact with Luna Base.
The moon? It couldn't be that close already.
How they get past our defenses?
Sir, UK headquarters has a visual.
Why haven't we heard from Admiral Hackett?
What do we do?
The only thing we can. We fight, or we die.
We should get to the Normandy.
God.
Move! Go, go, go!
Shepard! 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 Come on, get up. Here, take this. We've got to get moving. This is Admiral Anderson. Report in, anyone. Lieutenant Commander Williams, is that you? What's your status?
Shepard, he's on fire.
I can't raise the Normandy.
He's not screaming.
You'll have to contact him. We'll meet you at the landing zone. Anderson out. They're massive. Come on, Shepard. Ashley's headed to the Normandy. They'll pick us up if we can get to the spaceport. Let's move. Look out! How do you stop something so powerful?
I love how my braids are clipping into my head, not growing out of my head.
Take a running jump. It's farther than it looks. Come on, let's go. Come on. We'll have to go this way. Looks clear. Let's go. Lieutenant Commander, you read me? I'm patching in Shepard.
We're almost to the Normandy.
Husks, take him out. Shoot him. You haven't forgot how to shoot, have you? Take him out! Shoot him! You haven't forgot how to shoot, have you? Take him out! Shoot him! You haven't forgot how to shoot, have you? I'm out of ammo. Come on, we gotta move. Have to take these things out the old-fashioned way. Don't let him grab you. Gotta find a way out of here. Watch it!
Through this way. Hey. It's okay. Take my hand.
You can't help me.
Shepard, in here.
It's hard enough.
And they still...
The Citadel.
Gotcha!
Thanks.
Grab some ammo. Reload, let's keep moving. Come on, it hasn't been that long since you've handled a weapon. Lieutenant Commander Williams, we're in sight of the spaceport. ETA 3 minutes.
We've made it to the Normandy, taking heavy fire. Oh God! They're gonna take down that dreadnought. Invasive maneuvers.
Lieutenant Commander. Normandy, we're going to reroute. Do you copy? Normandy, come in.
You two all right? Get down, they'll see you.
Keep your head down. Nice shot. Finish them all. Shepard, over here.
No.
Stay. Come on. Let's get to that gunship. What the hell are those? Normandy, this is Anderson. Do you read?
Admiral, what's your location?
Buy it down. Send support. Lieutenant! Damn it! I lost the signal. And fast, we've got company. Hope they get there soon.
You and me both!
Running out of ammo. There's more of them.
Cavalry's here, gentlemen.
About time.
Let's go.
Welcome back, Shepard.
Thanks.
Shepard!
Come on!
I'm not going. You saw those men back there. There's a million more like them, and they need a leader.
We're in this fight together!
It's a fight we can't win. Not without help. We need every species and all their ships to even have a chance at defeating the Reapers. Talk to the Council. Convince them to help us.
What if they won't listen?
Then make them listen. Now go! That's an order.
I don't take orders from you anymore, remember?
Consider yourself reinstated, Commander. You know what you have to do.
I'll be back for you, and I'll bring every fleet I can. Good luck.
You too, Shepard.
Hey!
We're leaving. Leaving? Anderson, he can see what's going on.
Then you can drop me off at the nearest depot.
Because I'm stow it, Lieutenant. You don't want to go. We get it. But this isn't a democracy. We're going to the Citadel. You want out, you can catch a ride back from there.
Commander!
Joker,
Alive
that you?
and kicking.
Patch it through.
Shepard, first.
Mars. I've been trying to reach Mars on secure channels. No one's answering.
Any sign of Reaper activity?
Negative.
Edie?
The base appears to be online. It's possible the inhabitants were evacuated.
We'll know soon enough. Be ready, Joker. Just in case.
Roger that. Normandy out.
We're almost there.
Okay.
Still no contact from the base, but we've got a massive storm headed our way.
How long till it hits?
Half hour tops. After that, we're gonna have difficulty keeping up comms with the Normandy.
Understood.
Oh wow, I still have all my points when I'm out of this.
You mean the 3 wake-ups I gave you?
Wasn't enough.
Plus the hour, the one I got you an hour early, 2 hours early. That's like 5 wake-ups right there.
Wasn't enough.
And I put fresh, hot Chick-fil-A in front of you. What more can I do?
Damn, that's a huge storm. Looks a lot bigger in person.
Come on, Lieutenant. It's not that bad.
Doesn't mean it can't kill us.
I'm more worried about the war back on Earth, or the fact that nobody here is reporting in.
Fair enough. What's that? Holy shit. They're executing. They know we're here now. Sure looked like it.
What's Cerberus doing here on Mars?
Good question.
You don't know?
I'm not with them anymore. Look out! Security. Taking casualties. The line's regulars to you. Doesn't look like they came here in force. Yeah, just a few vehicles.
Kinda suggests they had help. From the inside.
Seems likely.
You need a lot more men and firepower to take. I need a straight answer, Shepard.
About what?
Do you know anything about this? What is Cerberus doing here?
What makes you think I know what they're up to?
You worked for them. How am I supposed to believe you've cut all ties?
We joined forces to take down the Collectors. That's it.
They rebuilt you from scratch. They gave you a ship, resources.
Let me be clear.
I've had no contact with Cerberus since I destroyed the Collector base. And I have no idea why they're here now or what they want.
Commander Shepard's been under constant surveillance since coming back to Earth. No way they've communicated since.
Sorry, Shepard. I just...
I shouldn't have to explain myself to you, Ash. Please, trust me.
I do. It's just that...
You too, Liara.
I was so worried when the reports came in.
Yeah. It was...
Ashley. But why'd you come here? I do.
Hallelujah. Some answers, finally.
Maybe. In the Prothean Ark?
It's more than we...
The Ark, assuming Cerberus.
Yeah, they see.
They want...
But what?
And any...
So it's a race to the archives.
Get back to the...
Looks like they found us. Not a problem for someone with biotics. You can't hide forever. You're going to need more than guns to finish them, Shepard. That's all of them.
Good. Let's find a way up.
Cerberus get in?
Not sure. One minute we were getting reports of the Reaper invasion. The next, there was chaos. Didn't even realize it was Cerberus at first.
Could they be working with the Reapers?
Doubtful. But I suppose anything's possible.
Shepard, take cover. We'll need access to the pedway. Controls should be nearby. Shepard, see if...
Hey, did you see that?
Great. Let's move.
Looks like the Alliance.
Commander, you read me?
Barely. Storm's causing interference.
Yeah, tell me about it. I've lost contact with the Normandy. What's your position?
I didn't read that. James.
This airlock shouldn't be open. Doesn't look like it was forced. No, you have to override security. Someone vented the air from this room while they were still here.
Looks like they died trying to claw their way out.
This is brutal, even by Cerberus standards.
Flashlights.
Roger that. Delta team out. What's our order? There's an Alliance force in here somewhere. We need to keep them away from the core. Check the next room. It's dark in there. Want me to shut the windows? No, not unless you want to decompress this room too. No.
We need to pressure. Hey,
Our security protocols.
But what if we're wrong? What if these are... I know. I don't know how you do it. You've always... Okay, doors open.
Good. Let's move.
activated the decontamination protocols, with the staff still inside. This is where they studied the various relics unearthed here.
What did they find?
More than I could describe in a short conversation. And they'd only scratched the surface. There are vaults filled with Prothean data troves that have never been studied. That's the tram line. Takes us right to the archives. No doubt Cerberus has it locked down. Hopefully we can override it at the security station. It's just through here.
Look out! Is that the... It's the... I'll move up first. to target you!
Damn it. Damn it! We're clear. The turret can't fire on us from here.
Set up a perimeter. No one else comes across.
We still have teams on the other side.
No one! And shut down those cameras.
Looks like they've made it to the arc.
And it... Not come... And then... Oh god.
Yeah.
Engineer. That could have been you.
How can you compare?
I don't know what you... I guess I just need some time.
Hello, this is...
We should get in position. Flank them when they get off the tram.
Good thinking, LC.
On it. Of course. Got it. Here they come. On it! I'm on it. Got it. Okay. Got it.
That and a squad of pissed off Cerberus troops.
They put up a good fight. Yes, it confirms my assertions about the value of the data stored here.
Ash.
Shepard.
Elusive man.
Fact, the Alliance has known about the archives for more than 30.
What do you want?
The data. That's what separates us, Shepard. Where you see them, imagine how strong humanity would be if we could.
Earth is under siege, and
You've always been short-sighted. Hey,
that base.
this isn't your fight any longer, Shepard.
Work with me.
You do. We can dominate them. You. But it's in this place.
Enough talk.
Duly.
Shepard.
What?
The...
Damn it.
She's faster than she looks.
Stay close. We can't lose her.
There she is.
Stay on her.
She's getting away.
Watch out.
Over there. Down there.
James, you read me? Cerberus has the data. Radio the Normandy. Get them down here now.
What the? Why is it doing that?
She's getting away. Damn it. James, Normandy, anybody.
I got this one.
Message.
Grab that thing. Bring it with us.
Shepard, we got Reaper signatures in orbit.
Ash. Ashley.
Ashley needs medical attention. We have to leave the Sol system.
I know.
The Citadel is our best chance. We can find help there.
Get us to the Citadel, Joker.
Roger that.
Hold on, Ash. See what you and Edie can learn from that thing.
Commander, I'm receiving a signal over the secondary QEC. I believe it's Admiral Hackett.
Patch me through.
I'll forward it to the comm room.
Shepard, are you reading me? Commander.
Edie, can you clear this up?
I'll do my best.
Did you get to the archives?
I was there. So was the elusive man.
I was worried Cerberus might try something. Did you get the data?
Most of it. He downloaded some before I could stop him. Edie and Liara are analyzing what we recovered.
What have you learned? Was it worth the effort?
Preliminary evidence suggests the data is a blueprint for a Prothean device.
Device?
A weapon, massive in size and scope, that's capable of unquantifiable levels of destruction.
Send me the data. We'll do our own analysis. If Liara's instincts are right, this might be the key to stopping the Reapers.
I hope so. Lieutenant Commander Williams was critically wounded. We're taking her to the Citadel.
Sorry to hear that, Shepard.
And if they don't?
I get the sense you don't quite believe it, though. What are our options? Isn't it worth trying, at least?
I'm going to check on Ashley and James.
I'm sure the Council will see the need to help.
It'll be a hell of a short war if they don't. Nuntic.
I'm here to tell you the Council is expecting you, but you might have time to go by the medical center if you want to check on progress over there.
Meeting with the Council is...
I'll head up to Udina's office now.
All right.
Intel suggests that the entire Batarian hegemony has been destroyed by an unknown force.
I'm gonna stay right here. There's something I want to do with a mod, so be right back.
He couldn't explain why he was unable to hear them moving around or sense much of anything.
Then, adventurers.
If there was a small number of enemies with high combat ability, then this off feeling might have made sense.
Just who I was looking for.
He stood up slowly and slung his weapon from his hip. His armor was a Mel shirt. It took no time to put on.
My producers want.
Then he hung a leather pouch filled with ceramic potion bottles on his belt and tied it fast. He was already wearing his necklace and ring containing defensive magic, so his preparations were complete. He whipped aside the curtain so fast, he practically ripped it off the wall and entered what could be called the base's main corridor. Several stolen lanterns containing the spell Continual Light were hung at regular intervals along the wall, making it so bright it was hard to believe this was inside a cave. Light illuminated his whole body. He had a slim build, but he wasn't skinny. The flesh under his clothes was solid as steel, a product of not only weight training, but also actual battles. His hair had been cut haphazardly, so it just grew mop-like in every direction without lining up at the ends. His brown eyes gazed sharply forward, and he had a smile close to a sneer about his mouth. His chin grew stubble like mold. All this combined to give him an undisciplined appearance, but when he walked, he practically glided. He had the grace of a wild predator. As he walked toward the entrance that was under attack, a man rushed at him. It was a face he knew, one of the mercenaries. When the man saw him, he broke into a smile as if they had already won.
What's going on? Brain, we're under attack!
Smiling wryly, he, Brain, replied.
I got that. How many? Who are they? There are 2 enemies, both women. Women? 2 women. The Blue Roses? Nah, can't be.
Cocking his head, he strode off toward where the clamor could be heard. The strongest party of adventurers in the kingdom, the famous Blue Roses, was made up of 5 women. What's more, the one member Brain had a run-in with, which ended in a painful draw, was an old lady. He'd also heard rumors that the best assassin in the Empire was a woman. Strong women weren't a rarity. Even if there was often a gap in the sex's physical ability, magic was easily able to close it. Of course, Brain was sure that piling the highest level magic on top of the strongest possible physical body would simply make someone invincible. But still, Brain's mental state was gradually taken over by his building excitement. His respect for the opponents who pulled off a sneak attack with small numbers, as well as a will to fight that came close to a hunger to face powerful enemies.
You don't have to come along. Aim back and fortify the rear or something.
He said to the sellsword, and then set off resolutely toward his unknown adversaries. He was Brain Unglaus. In the beginning, he had been a simple peasant, but he had ability that could have come only from heaven. Ability with a sword, that is. And he was a born talent holder to back up his sword skills. So with a weapon, he was invincible. He was a combat natural who never got more than a scratch on the battlefield. He had never been beaten with a sword, and he had planned to carry on his undefeated record. Everyone believed so, and he himself had no doubts. Then, the royal tournament changed his life. He hadn't participated with any strong conviction to win. He just wanted the whole kingdom to know how strong he was. Then everyone would bow at his feet. But he met an unthinkable result. Defeat. His first defeat since grasping a weapon. No, perhaps the first time in his entire life. The one who defeated him was named Gazov Stronov. He was the current captain of the Royal Select and known throughout neighboring countries as the strongest warrior in the region. Up until their bout, both had amassed a pile of nearly instant wins. But their clash was a long fight that ended up taking all the time they had previously saved. In the end, it was Gazov's martial art, fourfold slash of light, that decided the match. The fight was still talked of, but the fact that the low-born Gazov was now captain of the Royal Select really said it all. It was such an impressive fight that even the nobles, who detested the captain, couldn't say he was weak.
They'll destroy every organic
while the winner
being in
got the
the galaxy
glory.
if we don't
For
find a way
Brain,
to
the
stop them.
loser. It was as if everything he had built up so far in his life had been destroyed. Even though it had been a narrow defeat, he learned that he had only convinced himself there was no warrior stronger than him, because he'd been living like a frog in a well. After spending a month holed up in isolation, he broke through the despair that would drive many to the bottle and picked himself up. He turned down multiple invitations from nobles and sought power for the first time in his life. He sought technique and trained his body. He sought magic and increased his knowledge. The prodigy put in the effort of a successful hard worker. Defeat took Brain to another level. The reason he decided not to work for the nobles was that he didn't want his ability to decline. To pursue the skills he had learned, he needed opponents. He wasn't interested in swordplay for sport or show. He wanted a job with decent pay that would give him frequent opportunities to fight real battles. The reason he didn't choose to become an adventurer and earn their exceptional rewards was that adventurers didn't have much chance to cut down people. Monsters weren't bad opponents, but Brain's ultimate goal was to defeat Gazev, so he needed to fight humans. From the slim number of options left to him, Brain chose the Sowers of Death. Although in reality, he would have joined any mercenary gang. He was after only one thing, rewriting his defeat with a victory. To acquire the weapon he wanted, the power he needed, he gave up everything. Magic weapons were expensive, but the one he wanted wasn't just any magic weapon. There was a city far to the south of the kingdom in a desert. The weapons that found their way up from there every now and again could cut better than most magic weapons, even unenchanted. People's eyes literally bulged at the extreme prices. This was the kind of weapon he was after. Then, he finally acquired a katana. Now, he had arrived at the furthest reaches of strength. He was sure he would easily be able to beat Gazev, but he didn't let that make him arrogant. He never missed a day of training. If he closed his eyes, he could see it. That tournament, Gazev's elegant fighting, his figure as he smoothly evaded a blow no one had ever dodged before, the 4 slashes he'd unleashed at once. He couldn't remember himself being beaten. The only thing burned into his brain was the sight of the man who had beaten him. As he proceeded toward the entrance to the cave, a faint smell of blood reached his nose. The fact that he couldn't hear any more screams meant all the men who had crowded into the area had already been killed. It had taken about 2 or 3 minutes. The reason he had given at least 10 men standing orders to rush the entrance was to buy time with defense for the ones farther in to get ready. If they had been killed already, they must be as strong as I am, if there are only 2 of them. Brain grinned. Continuing with the same light step, he took a potion from his belt and guzzled the contents. The bitter fluid washed down his throat into his stomach. Then, he had one more. The heat in his stomach ignited and expanded, flowing to every corner of his body. His muscles reacted by powering up with audible bulging noises. This sharp increase in physical strength was a result of the magic in the potions. Lesser strength and lesser agility. Potions didn't need to be swallowed. Sprinkling an appropriate amount over the body would also work. But Brain simply believed that the effects were greater when he drank them. Of course, it may have just been him, but sometimes faith in something could produce powerful results.
Same thing I've been doing for the past
Next,
3 years.
he took out some oil and dripped it onto the blade of his katana. It left a pale gleam on the blade and disappeared as if being soaked up. The name of the oil was Enchant Weapon. It was only temporary, but it increased the sharpness of his blade by imbuing it with magic. Engage 1. Engage 2. Reacting to the keyword triggers, his ring and necklace gushed magical energy that enveloped his body. His eye necklace protected his eyes while it was active. It conferred blindness resistance, infrared vision, low light compensation, and more. If a warrior's weapon didn't connect, it wasn't worth a thing. If their opponent's eyesight failed them, adventurers would take advantage of their weakness and use projectiles to safely attack from a distance as a matter of course. In fact, some adventurers had caught Brain in just that sort of trap before he acquired the necklace. And his ring which was a ring of magic binding that could be injected with a low-tier spell for use whenever the wearer wished, cast at lesser energy protection to reduce attribute damage. If they were really attacking in small numbers, then he had to go at them at full power. Better to cast it now than regret casting it too late. Now, all his preparations were complete. He expelled the intense heat erupting inside him with deep breaths. Brain, as he was now with his powered-up physical strength, probably stood at the peak of human swordsman. The fierce look of someone completely confident in his abilities appeared on his face.
I'm all ready for you. So you're going to have to entertain me.
With each step, the smell of blood grew a bit stronger.
Dr. Michelle.
He saw two shadows.
Hey there. Looks like you're having fun.
It's not so fun at all. Perhaps it's because none of them are very strong. But I can't seem to get a good pull going.
The unguarded reply reached him as Brain slowly showed himself. They must have already known he was there. He hadn't been trying to hide, so it wasn't so surprising. His brow furrowed slightly upon seeing the invaders.
He said it was two women, but one of them is just a kid. And they're wearing dresses?
However, he abandoned those thoughts a moment later, because above the head of the girl, whose beauty could have been called peerless, he saw a sphere made of what looked like blood.
I've never seen a spell like that. But you're casters, huh?
It was still strange for them to be wearing dresses, but if they were casters, he understood why they didn't wear armor.
A faith-type magic caster. I believe in the origin of the bloodline, the divine ancestor, Cain Abel.
The divine ancestor, Cain Abel. Never heard of that god before. Is it a malicious god?
Yes, it's that type of deity. Although I heard it was defeated by the Supreme Beings. Apparently, he was a small fry event bossy.
Brain looked away from the little girl as she murmured,
I would expect nothing less of the Supreme Beings.
And observed the woman who was accompanying her like an attendant. She was also a beauty. She had voluptuous breasts and a sensual aura. Her white dress had spots of crimson here and there.
So she was the Vanguard.
I'd be worried.
He shrugged and gripped his katana tightly.
I just wanted to check in on
Well, whatever.
See how
I'm ready to go. If you're not, I'll give you some time. So what do you say?
The little girl looked at Brain in surprise, and then covered her mouth and laughed discreetly.
Well, aren't you brave? Are you quite sure you're all right fighting alone? I don't mind if you call your friends.
No matter how many weaklings there are, none of them will be able to lay a hand on you anyhow, right? In that case, I'm fine on my own.
Rest, okay?
There's nothing I can do if none of you understand how high the stars are in the sky. Reaching out your hand because you think you can touch them should be left to little girls like Aura. When a grown man does it, it's creepy.
I think we need people like that. I guess little girls don't understand a man's romance.
Brain held up his katana, with the tip pointed squarely at her eyes. In response, she looked up at the ceiling, clearly bored, and then back at him.
Go.
When the young girl gestured with her jaw, the woman leaped at him. Her motion was truly Gale-like, but it was no sweat for Brain to slice like the wind. Chest! He roared and simultaneously used all his power in his body to brandish his sword overhead and bring it down instantly. It was a blow with enough force to easily cut an armored warrior in two. They all felt the gust of air.
Gah! Huh. Not deep enough?
He intercepted her mid-leap, but she grasped her shoulder and jumped aside. His sword had sliced through her left collarbone to her chest. Brain frowned. There was something else bothering him besides the fact that she hadn't been defeated in one strike. Not a drop of blood came from her wound, despite the fact that a fountain of it wouldn't have been surprising.
Magic?
He squinted when he saw what was happening beneath the hand she was holding to her shoulder. The cut was closing up, albeit slowly. He'd heard rumors of rapid healing spells, but it didn't seem like one of those. Then there was only one answer. She was a monster with regeneration ability. Her sharply pointed canine teeth, her crimson eyes brimming with hostility. Her general appearance almost indistinguishable from a human. Once he had thought that far, he realized what she was.
A vampire. So, special abilities include rapid healing, bewitching eyes, absorbing life force, creating lesser kin through bloodsucking, resistance to weapons, and resistance to cold. I think there was more, but, well, whatever.
He tightened his grip on his katana.
Whatever you are, I'll cut you down.
The woman opened her eyes wide. Her crimson pupils seemed oddly large. The inside of Brayne's head felt hazy for a moment. He even felt some fondness for the enemy before him. But with a shake of his head, he cleared it away.
Bewitching eyes? I'm not so mentally weak that I fall for a charm of that level.
When Brayne's katana was drawn, his mind was like his sword. He could easily shake off typical mind control techniques. The vampire menacingly bared her fangs in hate. But there was also fear in her display. If she was confident she was stronger, she should have been able to just attack. In other words, she was on guard after being injured. Or she had decided he was a tough opponent.
Clever girl, but I suppose even a wild animal could figure out that much.
Brayne approached her with steady footsteps. She responded by gradually backing up.
Well, this is no fun.
Brayne snorted. He wondered if she comprehended his provocation. Seemingly responding, the vampire stopped her retreat and advanced ever so slightly. They were about 3 yards apart. This was a distance the vampire could close in an instant. The reason she couldn't charge was her uncertainty about how skilled Brayne was. It made her cautious. Then, with a faint smile, she thrust out her arms. Shockwave! The wave warped the atmosphere as it approached Brayne. This spell could easily dent full plate armor. If he took a direct hit in nothing but a mail shirt, it would surely cause a lot of damage. And if he took even one hit, the battle's balance would change. Their baseline abilities were very different.
If you're gonna celebrate, you should do it after you land a hit. If you don't want to give away your moves, that is.
Unharmed. Brayne had no trouble dodging the invisible shockwave and smiled coolly. The vampire panicked and pulled back from him. She had considered all humans an inferior species, looked down on them, but now her face showed that she realized her mistake. Brayne didn't show it in his expression, but he realized he needed to rethink the way he was fighting. He hadn't expected her to use magic. Brayne's target was Gazev, so he would be challenging him to a sword fight. For that reason, his magic wasn't nearly as sharp as his swordsmanship. He lacked the knowledge to guess what his opponent would do next. As a result, they both ended up cautiously staring each other down. This made the little girl impatient, and she found the scene unpleasant.
Okay, time to switch.
When the Reapers
She snapped her fingers. Pa-ching! And the dry sound caused the vampire's whole body to shudder. Keeping the vampire, who was still looking around in front of him, Brayne didn't move. It was the perfect time to attack, but he didn't. He took his eyes off the vampire and observed the little girl. She had a slim body. She was very thin considering how bizarrely big her chest was. Her arms were so slender, they looked like they'd snap like twigs if Brayne went all out. There were all kinds of faith magic casters. She could be a cleric, well accustomed to melee combat, a priestess, proficient at magic, or a bishop who completely specialized in magic. But if she was swapping in, that meant she was confident she could fight even without a vanguard. Brayne cracked a smile.
It doesn't seem like she summoned that vampire. So she must be one too.
You can also check your messages.
What's more, from her attitude, it seems she was the vampire superior. For a monster, it was a given that external appearance didn't have to match the inside. It wouldn't be strange if this little girl had higher physical strength than the vampire. She had seen Brayne's strength as a warrior, and still chose to fight him. And wasn't the vampire scared of her?
A master the vampire fears. She must be fairly strong. I can't let my guard down.
Continuing to observe her, he furiously worked his brain to figure out what she must be.
If she's a vampire master, could she be one of the legendary vampire lords? Supposedly there was one called Nationbreaker who destroyed an entire country. The old stories say that the 13 heroes slayed him.
The fact that one of the 13 heroes did it meant it wasn't impossible. Brain tensed his sword hand and slowly moved into a fighting stance.
I'm Brain Unglaus.
He got a puzzled frown in response to naming himself to a powerful enemy. Feeling a bit sheepish, he asked,
"What's your name?"
"Oh, you wanted to know my name? You should have just said so. Cocytus would have understood immediately. But I don't think of humans in that way, so it took me a while to realize. My apologies." She picked up the skirt of her dress and curtsied, as if she'd been invited to dance at a ball. "Shaltir Bloodfallen, allow me to one-sidedly enjoy this." She bowed gracefully to the man pointing his sword at her. Was she assuming he wouldn't attack? Or was she just confident that even if he did, she could handle it? The girl's expression gave a clear answer. The latter. She wasn't worried about him in the least.
I'll wipe that smug look off your face.
Brain silently sent her a sharp glare that would frighten even battle-seasoned warriors. He really didn't care for that look on her face. But he was also glad she had it. The arrogance of the powerful. That was one thing humans had over monsters, whose physical strength far exceeded theirs. Brain had taken advantage of it many times to defeat monsters stronger than him.
And what really mattered was being able to sneer at them after slaying them. After teaching them that there are some opponents you can show your confidence to, and some you shouldn't.
Are you planning to use any martial arts? Martial arts. They were special abilities warriors learned with intense training as they strove to reach the peak of their abilities. From their chi, or maybe their aura, martial arts produced things that still couldn't be explained and were called magic achieved with weapons. If a warrior was up against an opponent with a much larger build, the martial art, Fortress, would absorb the shock of the incoming attacks and give them the edge to fight head-on. Fatal Edge, an intense slash attack unleashed by focusing on their blade, could slay enemies in one hit, even ones with high health. If a heavily armored enemy appeared, it was a good time to use a blunt weapon martial art, Heavy Blow. With the temporary increase in physical ability from ability boost, victory was a simple matter of leveraging the momentary gap in strength. For a warrior, learning a wealth of arts and developing their own to use in a variety of situations was the type of preparation done as a matter of course. Especially if one was an adventurer, since their profession required them to be highly adaptable. But as for Brain,
I chose the end.
I wouldn't use them on the likes of you.
That's a tough call.
That's how he replied to Shaltir. But of course, it was a lie.
Who says I'm blaming myself?
He wasn't foolish enough to show his hand. Slowly exhaling, he lowered his hips and put his katana back in its sheath. He was preparing to draw. Long, shallow breaths. At the moment when he'd reached extreme focus, with his entire consciousness zeroed in on a single point, it counterintuitively expanded. The area sounds, air, signs. He had reached an awareness of the world where he could perceive everything. This was Domain, his first original martial art. The 3-yard radius it covered was not so large, but he was aware of everything that happened within. Put simply, the art raised his attack accuracy and evasion ability to the limit. Add to that Brain's trained body, and the power he gained from this art was beyond compare. Even if 1,000 arrows were to rain down on him, he was confident he could pick out only the ones that would hit him and cut them down to emerge unscathed. Not only that, but he was able to move precisely enough to slice a grain of wheat, and only that grain of wheat, at a distance. And then, chopping a vital point with one's blade would kill a living thing, so pursuing that was all that mattered. Rather than being a jack of all trades, Brain was instead an extreme specialist. He aimed to deliver a fatal blow even just 1 second faster than his opponent. It was from this intention that his second original martial art was born. Instant Strike. His sword reached a speed that made it impossible to dodge, but his training didn't stop there. His discipline from then on was extraordinary.
He performed instant strike tens of thousands of times. No, probably millions of times, to the point where he developed art-specific calluses and his hand warped around the hilt of his katana. By pursuing instant strike to the extreme, another art was born. His speed was such that no blood remained on the blade at the end of his swing. He felt he had reached the realm of the gods and called it Divine Strike. It was impossible for his opponent to even perceive him unleash it. By using those two arts, his guaranteed hit and godly speed, Domain and Divine Strike, the resulting blow was both impossible to dodge and a one-hit kill. He would aim for a vital point, most often the neck. And then the hidden technique, Whistling Wind. He named it for the sound of the fountain of blood that resulted from him severing a head in one blow. Even if a vampire didn't bleed, surely severing its head would essentially mean victory.
Are you almost ready?
Brain stayed silent, breathing in and out sharply. And Shaltir shrugged at him, seemingly bored.
Then I'll assume you're ready in attack. If you have any objections, please speak now.
A short time went by.
Here I come,
she announced playfully, and began her approach.
Shut up. I'd like to see you keep up that attitude once I've chopped off your head.
He didn't say it out loud. He had the feeling if he spoke, the energy he'd been gathering would disperse. Shaltir casually stepped forward. Her gait showed no caution whatsoever. Her steps were so light, she might as well have been heading to a picnic. It wasn't the walk of a warrior, and Brain suppressed his wry smile.
It was less than ideal.
He could only consider her foolish, but he wasn't about to give her any chances.
What I can.
Using ability boost and his domain martial art, he eagerly awaited the instant she would be at the right distance for him to strike. The foolish monsters who behaved as though they were the strongest were generally like this. Humans were certainly fragile creatures. Their physical skills were inferior, and they didn't have any special abilities.
A lot has happened since then, Leon.
But I'm going to teach her how dangerous it is to make light of humans.
Really?
Martial arts were created so that humans might oppose creatures far stronger than themselves.
I think it's best for both of us.
She'll fall with one slash.
The more conceited a monster was, the more desperately they floundered when forced into a corner. If he didn't kill her in one hit, she'd probably appeal to the vampire for rescue. Then it'd be 2 against 1. That would be a hard fight, even for Brain. So, it had to be a one-hit kill. He scoffed at her with a straight face, at the way she approached so casually.
As if she doesn't know she's walking up the steps to the guillotine.
3 more steps. 2 more. 1 more. And then...
Your head is mine!
He spat the words in his mind as he flung himself at her.
Shoot!
His exhalation was sharp and short. The katana flew out of its sheath and stretched toward Shaltir's neck, cutting the air itself. If one was to liken its speed to something, a bolt of lightning. By the time the flash registered, the head was falling. That's how fast he was. Millions of repetitions had created a strike that truly reached the realm of the gods.
Got it.
He was sure. And his eyes widened, in spite of himself.
Okay. Yeah.
He had cleaved through the air. If his strongest attack was completely dodged, then he would have admitted that an unimaginably strong enemy had finally appeared before him. But Shaltir had caught it. His strike that was as fast as a bolt of lightning, as gently as if she were pinching the wing of a butterfly. Brain felt as if the air had frozen. He breathed desperately in and out.
That can't be.
He panted in an almost silent whisper. He felt like his whole body was going to start trembling, but he restrained himself with everything he had. He couldn't believe what he'd just seen, but Shaltir's 2 slender, snow-white fingers, a thumb and an index finger, were right there, on the end of his sword. She didn't catch the cutting edge, in front of the tempering pattern, and instead pinched the ridge on the flat of the blade, where the wrist bent at 90 degrees. She didn't stop it in its path, but caught up with it from behind. caught up to his divine strike. It looked like she wasn't putting any effort into holding it. But when Brain tried to push out of it or pull back with his full strength, the sword would not budge. It was as if he was pulling on a chain connected to a massive boulder hundreds of times larger than himself. Suddenly, the pressure on the sword increased, and it was Brain who found his posture crumbling.
Cocytus has a few of these, but when the one using it is as weak as you, I can't be bothered to feel any wariness.
Shaltir raised the tip of the sword to eye level and examined it closely. As her words sank in, Brain felt his mind go blank. He felt the despair of having his entire way of life refuted. The reason he wasn't crushed in spite of it was his previous defeat. In the same way a broken bone grows back thicker and harder, his tolerance for defeat had gone up. This couldn't be happening, but he had to accept it. She caught his godly fast strike without breaking a sweat. Shaltir frowned quizzically at Brain, who was all but pale from shock. Then, she heaved a theatrically disappointed sigh.
Do you understand now? You can't win against me if you don't use martial arts. If you understand, then stop holding back and fight for real.
Those were the brutal words he heard. The reply spilled out of Brain's mouth unconsciously. You monster! Shaltir responded with a pure, innocent smile. Like a flower in full, glorious bloom.
That's right. So you finally understand. I'm a merciless, cruel, inhuman, and lovely monster.
She let go of his blade and sprang away. She was back where she started, probably not even a fraction of an inch off.
Are you almost ready?
She smiled playfully at him. A hot flash of anger filled Brain's mind upon hearing the same words as before. How much can she belittle me? Then, a shudder because he realized she was at leisure to make fun of someone who had supposedly reached the limits of human strength. Should I run?
Signal confirmed.
Brain valued his life. If he couldn't win, he should run away to fight another day. It was enough to stay alive and win in the end because he still thought he had room to get stronger. But even if he chose to run, there was nothing he could do about the gap in their physical abilities. He carefully selected his target, making sure she couldn't attack where he was looking. He would go for her legs. He would destroy her ability to move quickly, and then all he needed to do was run away. He would stay out of range of those hands that caught his critical hit earlier and attack an area that was difficult to defend. Having decided that, he continued staring at her neck and put his sword back in its sheath. With Domain activated, he could slice through his target, even with his eyes closed, so using them for a feint was the obvious move.
Here I come.
Shaltir, once again, began her approach. Whereas before, he had been waiting eagerly for her to enter his domain. This time was the reverse. Ideally, he didn't want her to get that far. How did you get so faint-hearted? He desperately scolded himself in his head, but try as he might to rouse himself, he didn't get fired up. His will to fight was like a flame that had run out of fuel. He clicked his tongue and observed Shaltir's steps with Domain. 3 steps. 2 steps. 1. She was in range. Brains filled a vision as he fixed his eyes on her neck, included the borderline sneer on Shaltir's face. He would aim at one point, the ankle on her right foot, as she stepped forward. He slashed his sword down, managing to raise the attack speed a fraction. He cast off any mental pressure and confirmed that he was moving faster than last time. If he had been on the receiving end, he wouldn't have been able to block against this speed. This'll work! He was about to cut off that foot, peeking out from beneath her skirt, right at the slender ankle that was befitting such a young girl, when his hand slipped off his hilt of his katana. With his gaze fixed to one place, Brain didn't see what had happened. But his special perception abilities from Domain alerted him that his beloved katana had fallen to the ground, and that toward the back of the blade, the point of a high heel was holding it down. There was no way that could have happened, but it was true. The katana had slipped out of his hand because the impact of her stepping down on it had traveled down the blade. There was one reason he didn't want to believe it. Even in his most highly attuned state of focus, he hadn't been able to detect it, not even from within his domain he was so proud of. She was close enough to touch. From that distance, Shaltir looked down on him icily. The terrible oppression of her gaze made it feel like the atmosphere alone would crush him. He breathed roughly, in and out. Every pore in his body was pouring sweat, and a wave of nausea assailed him. His vision wavered. He'd made it through so many fights, escaped the jaws of death a pile of times. But compared to the situation he was in now, they all felt like pale imitations, as if everything up until now had been child's play. The hill lifted off the blade of his sword, and Shaltir sprang back.
Are you almost ready?
What he felt more than anything this third time she called to him was despair.
Next she'll probably say, "Here I come."
But she said something else.
Are you incapable of using martial arts?
The voice contained pity and surprise, and Brain just inhaled. He couldn't respond.
On my way.
Well, what should he say? Was he supposed to play the fool like a clown and say,
"Well, I used them, but you broke through them like they were nothing"?
Biting his lower lip, he picked up his beloved katana.
Could it be that perhaps you're just not so strong? I thought you were stronger than the ones by the entrance, but you seem... My apologies. My strength scale measures in yards. I can't detect differences that amount to a fraction of an inch or two.
His unceasing effort. The time with Gazav, he'd overestimated his ability. He hadn't pushed himself at all, and he'd lost to a man who had. And that's why the defeat had been incorporated within him, become a part of him. Everything he was after, clawing himself up from there and training for real, the monster before his eyes mocked his entire existence.
Something's wrong. Up until now, I slayed every monster no matter how lightly they took me. No matter how much stronger they were. I slayed them all. So why?
His thoughts welled up that far, but he suppressed the rest of them. He roared and slashed at Shaltir. He put all his power and weight into his katana, aiming it at her as she watched him quizzically. This slash, mobilizing every muscle in his body, could have sliced a human in two from head to toe whether they wore a helmet or not. Brain thought that maybe he had caught her, since she didn't try to dodge his incoming blow. She simply watched the white flash as it came down. But the impossible scene he'd witnessed just before dismissed that thought immediately.
It can't be this easy to kill her.
A moment later, his hunch was proven correct. A sharp noise rang out, and Brain saw another unbelievable sight. Shaltir had swiftly parried with the 3/4 of an inch fingernail of her left pinky. And it didn't even look like she had put any effort into it. There was a gap in her fist, and her pinky finger was gently curled. She had parried his all-out attack with a movement that could not even be considered playful. His attack that could slice through full plate armor, break swords, and pierce shields. Frantically gathering up his shattered will, he tensed his arm to stop the vibrations from the impact, brandishing his sword once more. And again, Shaltir blocked it without really trying. She yawned ostentatiously. With her free right hand, of course, she covered her mouth. She seemed to be deliberately looking up at the ceiling. She was no longer even giving Brain the time of day. Still, Brain's blade continued to be repelled by her one pinky finger. A howl emerged from his throat. No, not a howl. A scream. Horizontal swipe. Blocked. Diagonal swipe. Blocked. Forward swipe. Blocked. Diagonal strike. Blocked. Vertical strike. Blocked. Horizontal strike. Blocked. No matter what angle, no matter where he aimed, All his attacks were blocked. It was like the katana was sucked to wherever the nail was. At this moment, Brain finally understood. Absolute strength. Even if he worked hard, even if he had natural ability, there were beings whose realm he would never be able to approach, much less reach.
Oh, are you tired? But your nail clipper is rather dull, wouldn't you say?
At those impatient words, Brain's sword hand stopped. Could he chip away at a mountain with a katana? That would be impossible. Any child could come up with that answer. So, could he win against Shaltir?
Last stand, Commander.
Any warrior who faced her would know the answer. There was no way to win. There was no way a mere man could win against an opponent with strength beyond human conception. The only ones who would be able to put up a fight would be more than human. Unfortunately, Brain was only a warrior who had reached the pinnacle of human capability. That's right. No matter how much effort he put in, from the moment he had been born as a human, he would never be anything more than an infant waving around a stick. I put in so much effort.
Effort? That word doesn't mean a thing. I was created strong, so it was never necessary to strive for strength.
Brain laughed. All his hard work meant nothing. Why was I so cocky? Why did I think I was so talented? His arms and legs felt so heavy. It was like being pressed between weights.
What are you crying for? Did something upset you?
He knew Shaltir was saying something, but it was as if she were saying it somewhere far away, and he couldn't hear. Swinging around a heavy iron rod had been pointless. Even more so when the blisters on his hands popped doing it. Jogging in heavy armor had also been pointless. Facing monsters all alone and just barely clinching victory all those times had also been pointless. Everything was pointless, and his life was also pointless. Before a truly strong opponent, Brain was no different from the unskilled weaklings he used to sneer at. I'm an idiot.
Are you satisfied? Shall we finish up here soon?
She drew nearer, snickering with her pinky finger up, and Brain cried out. But it was no longer the cry of a warrior as before. It was practically the wail of a child. He set off running, showing his back to the enemy. He'd seen enough of Shaltir's physical ability to make him sick, so he figured she would catch up to him instantly. But he didn't think about that. No, he wasn't at leisure to think about it. He just showed her his wide-open back and ran desperately toward the back of the cave, his face twisted into a tear-streaked grimace. The innocent voice of a little girl, part Psy, part sinister, called after him.
Now we're going to play tag. You're just full of games, aren't you? Well, let's have fun then, shall we?
Three. Cold air blew across the hall, coming through the gaps in the barricade, brushing at the bodies of the 42 remaining sowers of death. This hall was usually used as a place to eat. Well, that was because it was the most spacious area in the cave. But now, it had been converted into an improvised fortress. The cave that served as the mercenaries' hideout had this long, thin open area at the far back, and subcaves opened up radially from there. Those were used as private rooms, weapon storage, food cellars, and so on. The men always made this their last line of defense in a raid, because if they could hold this area, they could take on their foes in a controlled way. Not that they built the fortifications out of any fancy materials. First, they tipped a plain table onto its side and stacked wooden crates against it to make a simple barricade. Then, between the barricade and